I remember the day I first laid eyes on Lisa. It was the spring of 2010, a season bursting with life, flowers blooming everywhere under the warm sun. I was drawn to her at a coffee shop, a smile playing on her lips as she sipped her cappuccino, seemingly lost in her own world. She had a way of lighting up a room. I was entranced. We started talking, and that conversation continued for hours as if we had known each other forever. Fast forward to now, and we're 3 years into our marriage. It's a quaint little house we bought in a quiet neighborhood, filled with laughter, memories, and the occasional conflict that comes with sharing your life with someone. Lisa was an elementary school teacher, passionate about her job and the children she nurtured. I worked in IT, a job that often kept me glued to my computer. Our lives were a mixture of routines, dinners together, and weekend adventures. It was, by all accounts, a comfortable life, one I thought I could depend on. But of course, life is often deceptive. Beneath the surface tranquility, I began to sense that something was off. Lisa had changed subtly. Over the months, she was more distant, often lost in thought or distracted by her phone. I dismissed my concerns, attributing them to work stress or the general malaise that sometimes creeps into a marriage. I wanted to believe that everything was all right, that my suspicions were unfounded. Then one evening, as I was tidying up the house after a long day, I stumbled upon something that would change everything. A piece of paper slipped from Lisa's jacket as she hung it up in the hallway. It was a receipt from a local hotel dated a week prior. My heart sank as my mind raced. I tried to convince myself it was innocent. Perhaps she was planning a surprise for me, but deep down I felt the chill of betrayal creeping in. The next few days were a blur of confusion and pain. I confronted Lisa, but she brushed it off, claiming it was a mistake, a mix-up in her filing. I wanted to believe her, but the more I thought about it, the more my doubts grew. I began to look for clues like a detective on a case, rifling through her belongings for any indication of a lie. I felt sick and desperate, yet I needed proof. It wasn't long before I found it. A message on her phone, carelessly left open one evening. "Can't wait to see you again. I miss you." It was from someone named Mark. The air in the room felt heavy as I read those words. My heart raced, and a mix of anger and heartbreak flooded through me. Who was this man? What did he mean to her? I decided then and there that I wouldn't confront Lisa without a plan. I needed to gather as much information as possible. I started following her. It felt wrong, invasive even, but the fear of loss was greater than my morals. Each day, I'd watch her from a distance, noting her interactions, her body language. I'd see her laugh, her smile, and it would cut me deeper knowing she shared these moments with another man. On Thursday, I saw them together. They met at the same hotel listed on the receipt, a small, unassuming place that seemed to stand in stark contrast to the betrayal that was happening within its walls. I felt my heart shatter as I watched them from my car parked a distance away. They were laughing together, sitting close, sharing an intimacy that I thought was reserved for us. My breath hitched in my throat, and it took everything I had not to storm in there and confront them. But I was a man on a mission now. I returned home that night, my mind racing with thoughts of revenge. I felt a fire ignite within me, fueled by the betrayal I had witnessed. I was no longer just a hurt husband. I was a man wronged, and I needed to make her pay for the anguish she brought upon me. The path ahead was dark, but I was determined to see it through. I would craft a plan that would ensure she felt the same pain I did, one that reminded her of the love we built together and how easily it could be shattered. The stage was set for a confrontation that would rock the foundations of our life together. After witnessing Lisa with Mark, my emotions were a whirlwind of rage, sadness, and a sense of betrayal that I had never felt before. It became clear that I had to formulate a plan, one that would allow me to confront her, but on my terms. I spent sleepless nights concocting ideas, trying to maintain a facade of normalcy during the day. I didn't want her to suspect anything was wrong while I gathered information and prepared for the confrontation. I started by digging deeper into Lisa's life. I had always respected her privacy, but now it felt necessary to breach those boundaries. I began to track her daily routines, nodding when she left for work, when she returned, and any variations in behavior. I even set up a hidden camera in our living room, disguised as a decorative piece, to capture her interactions when I wasn't home. I had to know everything. On Monday, after a long day at work, I returned home to find her chatting excitedly on the phone. I feigned disinterest and went about my routine, pretending to check emails on my laptop. Lisa's laughter filled the room, and I felt a knife twist in my gut as I realized that laughter was no longer reserved for me. I listened closely, trying to catch snippets of her conversation, but she quickly ended the call before I could gather anything substantial. The next day, I escalated my plan. I decided to approach Mark. I needed to confront him directly to see who this man was that had come between us. I found out through social media that he worked at a nearby gym. It took everything I had not to confront him that very day, but I knew I had to be strategic. I wanted him to feel my presence, to know that I was not going to let him take my wife without a fight. Over the next few weeks, I began experiencing my own transformation. The once mild-mannered husband who adored his wife was becoming someone darker, consumed by vengeance. I filled my days with observations, distancing myself from friends and family who would have questioned my behavior. Soon, I was a shadow, lurking in the background, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. I decided to drop by the gym where Mark worked, under the pretense of signing up for a membership. A rush of adrenaline coursed through my veins as I approached the front desk. Mark was there, smiling and friendly, completely oblivious to the storm brewing within me. I introduced myself, keeping my tone casual as I asked about the gym facilities. I observed him closely, noting the ease in his demeanor and the way he interacted with the female clientele. It made my skin crawl. "Are you new to the area?" he asked, his voice dripping with charm. "Yeah, just moved in a few months ago. Trying to get back in shape," I replied, forcing a smile. We exchanged pleasantries for a while, and I could feel a mixture of anger and jealousy bubbling beneath the surface as I watched him joke and flirt with another woman. The thought of him touching Lisa sent waves of fury through me. I left the gym with my blood boiling, but I felt empowered. I now had a face to associate with my pain. That evening, as I returned home, I had a revelation. I could use Mark's charm against him. I started crafting a plan to make Lisa question everything, to create a scenario where she would feel the very same betrayal she had put me through. It had to be meticulous, so she wouldn't suspect my involvement. I decided to create a fake persona. A friend of mine, Tom, who worked in marketing, helped me set up a social media account with a fabricated identity. I chose everything carefully, ensuring that the persona was appealing enough to draw Lisa in, yet distant enough to keep her guessing. I made her believe she had found someone new, someone who wanted to take her out, to flirt with her in the same way she had done with Mark. Little by little, I began sending messages to Lisa through this fake account, always under the guise of someone who had just seen her at a local cafe or stumbled upon her social media page. The messages were innocent at first, complimenting her on her teaching skills and asking about her interests. Each response Lisa sent fueled my resolve as I noticed a shift in her demeanor. She was intrigued, almost excited by the attention. I felt a rush of satisfaction. As the weeks went on, the messages became bolder. They hinted at desires and interests that mirrored her own. I made sure to keep a close watch on her reactions, and I could see her interest peaking. Lisa would often spend more time on her phone, giggling at her messages, and that familiar knife twisted again. My plan was simple yet cruel. I would draw her in deeper with this fake persona until the moment was right to reveal who I really was, her husband, the man she had betrayed. I wanted her to feel the weight of her actions, to understand the pain she had caused me. I felt powerful for the first time in weeks. The man who had been wronged was now in control, and I was going to make sure she learned the price of deceit. The web I had woven was tightening around her, and soon I would be ready to spring the trap. As days turned into weeks, I watched Lisa with a mix of anticipation and dread. My plan was unfolding smoothly, and I found myself immersed in a dual life, one where I played the devoted husband and another where I became a puppeteer, pulling the strings of deception. The tension in our home was palpable, but I was careful to maintain a facade, keeping my emotions in check. The messages from my fake account had escalated, and Lisa was completely captivated. She began sharing more personal details with Lucas, the persona I had created. She talked about her work, her dreams, and even her frustrations with our marriage, albeit vaguely, but enough for me to sense her dissatisfaction. Each message exchanged felt like a dagger to my heart, a constant reminder of the betrayal that lay between us. One evening, as we sat together on the couch watching a show, I noticed her scrolling through her phone, her smile widening at whatever screen lit up before her. I feigned interest in the show, but all I could think about was the fantasy that was unfolding right under my nose. Lisa was so engrossed that she barely noticed me staring at her, my mind racing with thoughts of how far I would take this. Finally, I decided it was time to escalate things further. I crafted a message that would suggest a meetup, a casual encounter that would test her loyalty. I waited until late at night when she was lounging on the couch, her attention fully on her phone. "Hey Lisa, I'd love to meet you for coffee. I think we have a lot in common. How about this weekend?" I hit send, my heart racing. I didn't have to wait long for a response. The excitement in her reply was palpable. "That sounds great, I'd love to." A wave of satisfaction washed over me, mingling with a deep sense of dread. I was on the precipice of something monumental, and once the trap was set, there'd be no turning back. I felt like a predator waiting to pounce, and Lisa was blissfully unaware of the danger she was walking into. As the weekend approached, I casually brought up the topic of my plans. "What are you up to this weekend?" I asked, trying to sound nonchalant. "Oh, I might meet up with a friend for coffee," she replied, a hint of excitement in her voice. I raised an eyebrow, keeping my face neutral. "Sounds fun. Who's your friend?" I asked. "Just someone I met online," she said with a light laugh, but her eyes sparkled with a glimmer of mischief. I felt my stomach twist at the realization that she was genuinely excited about this meeting. On the day of her planned coffee date, I executed the next phase of my plan. I had arranged to be out of the house all morning, leaving her with the illusion of freedom. Little did she know that I had a friend tailing her, someone I trusted to keep an eye on things from a distance. I needed to know if she was actually going to meet Lucas, and I couldn't risk showing my hand just yet. As I drove around the neighborhood, I felt a mix of anxiety and exhilaration. I knew this was the moment I had been waiting for, the moment to confront her about her infidelity. I received a text from my friend confirming that Lisa was indeed meeting someone at a cafe. My heart raced at the thought of her sitting across from my fabricated identity, completely unaware of the truth lurking behind the scenes. After a torturous hour, I received another message. "She's here. Looks like she's waiting." I parked a few blocks away, my palms sweaty against the steering wheel. I took a deep breath, focusing on the plan I had meticulously crafted. I needed to remain calm no matter what happened. I decided to make my move. I approached the cafe cautiously, peering through the window to see Lisa seated at a small table, her gaze fixed on her phone. An unfamiliar man sat across from her, casually sipping his drink, laughing at something she had said. The sight ignited a fire within me, and I took a moment to compose myself before stepping inside. As I entered, I felt the weight of the situation settle on my shoulders. I scanned the room, locking eyes with Lisa for a brief second before the man turned to greet me. "Hey, you must be Lucas," I said, putting on my best cheerful demeanor. Lisa's eyes widened in shock. "What are you doing here?" she stammered, her face paling as realization washed over her. I could feel the tension rise in the air. "I was just in the neighborhood and thought I'd surprise you," I said, my voice dripping with faux sincerity. The man Mark looked confused, glancing between us. Hey man," he said, trying to play it cool, but I could tell he sensed the shift in the atmosphere. I took a seat without waiting for an invitation, my heart pounding as I leveled my gaze at Lisa. "So this is your friend?" I asked, my voice laced with a calm that belied the chaos within. Lisa struggled to find her words, her eyes darting between me and Mark. I was just getting to know Lucas," she said, her voice shaky and unconvincing. I leaned back, crossing my arms, a smirk creeping onto my face. "Is that so?" I didn't realize you were so interested in meeting strangers online. What about your husband? The look of horror on Lisa's face was enough to fuel my fire. I could see the panic setting in as she grasped the gravity of the situation. Mark shifted uncomfortably in his seat, clearly caught in the middle of a storm he never anticipated. "Let's not make a scene," I said, lowering my voice to keep the conversation private. "We need to talk, Lisa." Her cheeks flushed crimson as she glanced at Mark, who looked uncertain about what to do. I didn't care. This was my moment, and I was going to make it count. "I can explain," she whispered, but I wasn't in the mood for explanations. I wanted her to feel the weight of her decisions, the betrayal she had inflicted upon me. "Explain what?" I shot back, my voice rising slightly. "How you can sit here with another man while pretending everything is fine at home." Mark shifted in his chair, clearly uncomfortable. "Maybe we should all take a step back," he suggested, looking between us. I wasn't about to let him intervene. This was between Lisa and me. "Stay out of this," I snapped, my anger boiling over. Lisa looked at me, her eyes wide with fear. "Please, let's talk about this later," she pleaded. "No, now is exactly the right time," I insisted, ignoring the tears starting to form in her eyes. I felt a sense of satisfaction in exposing the truth in public. It was a reckoning, and I wanted her to feel the humiliation of her actions. The cafe buzzed with activity around us, but in that moment, it felt like we were the only three people in the room. My heart raced as I realized that I had her cornered, and I intended to make the most of it. "What do you think Lucas will think of you when he finds out the truth?" I asked, my voice dripping with disdain. Lisa looked down, her hands trembling. "I never meant for it to go this far," she said quietly. "Then why did you?" I pressed, leaning in closer, demanding an answer. Finally, the truth began to unravel, and I would not let her escape so easily. The tension in the cafe was suffocating. I could feel the eyes of the other patrons on us, the whispers stirring around the room, but I didn't care. My focus was solely on Lisa, whose face was a mixture of shock, guilt, and a hint of defiance. I sensed that the facade she had carefully constructed was beginning to crumble, and I was determined to peel back the layers until she faced the reality of her actions. "Lisa, you need to answer me," I said, my voice barely above a whisper but laced with urgency. "Why did you feel the need to seek companionship outside our marriage? Wasn't I enough for you?" The hurt in my voice felt raw, and I could see it resonate in her eyes. I don't know," she stammered, looking down at her trembling hands. "Things have been complicated. I thought I could talk to someone who understood me better." "Understood you better?" I echoed, incredulous. "You thought having an affair would solve your problems. You thought betraying me would make you happy." Mark shifted uncomfortably in his chair, looking increasingly out of place in the escalating confrontation. I didn't bother to look at him. My focus was entirely on Lisa. I could see she was struggling to maintain her composure, tears welling in her eyes. "I was just lonely," she admitted, her voice cracking. "I felt like you were always working, always distracted. I wanted someone who would listen to me." Each word felt like a dagger. She was admitting to her own shortcomings, yet I couldn't shake the anger boiling inside me. "So, you decided to cheat. That's your answer to feeling neglected. You didn't think about how that would affect me or us." "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she cried, her voice rising as her facade slipped away. "I thought I was just talking to someone who understood my struggles. It was supposed to be harmless." "Harmless?" I sneered, leaning forward. "Sitting across from this man, sharing your life with him while I was at home. That's your idea of harmless." Mark, sensing the rising tension, finally spoke. Maybe it's time for me to leave. This is clearly a private matter." "No," I snapped, my eyes still locked on Lisa. "You're part of this too. You need to understand what you've done." Mark stood up, leaving a few bills on the table. "I didn't mean to come between you two. I thought what? That you could just waltz in and take my wife." I hissed, my voice low but filled with fury. He raised his hands defensively. "I didn't know she was married. I didn't want to hurt you." "Too late for that, isn't it?" I retorted bitterly, turning my gaze back to Lisa. "You both have made a choice. Now face the consequences." Lisa's sobs filled the air, drawing attention from nearby tables. I felt a twisted sense of satisfaction as I watched her unravel. She was no longer the composed, charming wife I had known. She was now exposed, stripped of her defenses. Please, just let's talk about this later, she begged, but I was having none of it. No. We're talking now and you need to understand how this feels. I leaned in, my voice dropping to a lower tone. You've made a fool of me, Lisa. You didn't think I would find out. You didn't think I would ever confront you. The raw pain in her expression was powerful, and for a moment I almost felt pity. But then I remembered the nights I spent wondering where she was, the hollow feeling in my chest as I replayed the moments leading to this confrontation. How long has this been going on? I demanded, feeling a surge of anger wash over me. Just a few weeks, she admitted, tears streaming down her cheeks. It was never meant to be serious. I didn't think what? I interrupted. Didn't think I'd find out, didn't think about the vows you took, or about the love we built together. I'm so sorry, she said, her voice barely a whisper. I thought I needed something different, but I realize now how wrong I was. The weight of her words hung in the air, and for a moment I felt a flicker of hope that she could still salvage something. But the hurt was too raw, too deep. Sorry doesn't cut it, Lisa. You've betrayed me in the worst way possible. I could feel the eyes of the cafe patrons on us, and I knew I had to put an end to this. Let's go home and talk about this properly, I said, my voice low and firm. And when we do, there will be no more lying. I want the truth. Lisa nodded, her sobs quieting as she wiped her tears. Okay, she said, her voice trembling. As we left the cafe, Mark stood awkwardly by the door, unsure of what to do. I shot him a glare, letting him know he was part of this mess, and without another word I led Lisa to the car. The drive home was tense, the silence thick with unspoken words and emotions. When we reached our house, I turned to her, my heart racing. This isn't over, Lisa. Not by a long shot. You need to understand the gravity of what you did and how it has affected us. She nodded, looking defeated as she stepped inside. I felt an overwhelming mix of emotions, anger, sadness, betrayal, but above all, determination. The confrontation was just the beginning. I had set my plan in motion, and now it was time to unravel everything she thought she knew about our life together. It was time for her to face consequences, and I was ready to pull the strings until the very end. Once we stepped into our home, the familiar warmth of the space felt foreign to me. It was as if the walls themselves knew about the betrayal that had unfolded in the cafe. I motioned for Lisa to take a seat on the couch, my heart pounding in my chest. We were about to have a conversation that would redefine our lives, one that would rip apart the veil of normalcy we had clung to for so long. Sit down, I instructed, my voice steady and commanding. I needed to maintain control to ensure that she understood the gravity of her actions. Lisa sank into the couch, her eyes darting around the room as if searching for refuge. I took a seat across from her, keeping my expression impassive. We need to talk about everything, about you, about Mark, about us. I know I messed up, she said, her voice trembling. I can't even begin to express how sorry I am. I never wanted to hurt you. Sorry doesn't cut it, I interrupted, the anger boiling within me. Do you know how it feels to find out the person you love the most is sharing their life with someone else? To feel completely powerless and betrayed? Her eyes glistened with tears, and I could see the remorse etched on her face. I thought I could handle it. I thought I was just talking to someone who understood me. I was lonely and felt abandoned, but I realized now how wrong I was. You thought what? I pressed, my patience wearing thin. Thought you could have your cake and eat it too, that you could string two men along without any consequences. No, I didn't think of it like that, she cried, desperation creeping into her voice. I was foolish and naive, and I see that now. Foolish and naive. I scoffed, leaning forward. You were deceitful. You chose to betray me, and for what? A few fleeting moments of attention from a man who doesn't care about you like I do. Lisa flinched at my words, and I could see the shame wash over her. You're right, she whispered, her voice breaking. I didn't think it through. I chose the easy way out instead of talking to you about how I felt. That struck a chord within me. The realization that we had let our communication falter gnawed at my insides, but it didn't excuse her actions. Tell me about Mark, I demanded, forcing myself to stay focused on the topic at hand. What was he to you? I didn't want it to be serious, she blurted. I just wanted someone to listen, someone to talk to. He was charming and funny, and it was an escape from my own insecurities. But now I see it was a mistake, a horrible mistake. Did you love him? I asked, my voice steady but filled with pain. No, she exclaimed, shaking her head vehemently. It was never like that. I love you. I made a terrible choice and I regret it every single day. Please believe me. Love doesn't betray, I said sharply. When you love someone, you don't turn to another. You come to them with your problems, your feelings. You don't run away and hide. I know, she pleaded, her eyes pleading for understanding. I realize now how stupid I was. I just didn't know how to express what I was feeling. I thought I was lost, and in the moment I just wanted someone to care. The tears streamed down her face, and for a moment I felt a flicker of compassion, but I quickly buried it beneath the weight of my anger. You had someone who cared, a husband who stood by you through everything. You chose to throw that away. I was searching for validation, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I thought I needed someone else's approval to feel worthy, but I was wrong. I don't want Mark, I want you. Wanting me now doesn't erase what you did, I shot back, my heart hardening. Your actions have consequences, Lisa. I can't just forget this. You've shattered the trust we built together. I'll do anything to make it right, she begged, her voice growing desperate. Please give me a chance to prove my love to you. I will work on our marriage. I promise I'll be open and honest from now on. A part of me wanted to believe her, but another part was clouded by the betrayal I had witnessed. How do I know you won't just do it again? How do I know I can trust you? I'll show you, she insisted, determination gleaming in her eyes. I'll cut off all ties with Mark and anyone else who might threaten us. I'll go to counseling if you want, whatever it takes to rebuild what we had. Counseling. The word echoed in my mind. It was a drastic step, but perhaps it was worth considering. You've put us in this position, I said slowly, weighing my options. You need to be the one to prove it to me. I can't be the only one fighting to save our marriage. I will, she exclaimed, her voice filled with urgency. I will do whatever it takes. I love you and I don't want to lose you. My heart was torn between the desire to forgive her and the bitter taste of betrayal. Trust is earned, Lisa. You need to understand that. I know, said, her voice softening. And I will earn it back, I promise. Just give me a chance. As I looked into her eyes, I saw the vulnerability and pain mirrored in my own. It was a precarious balance, a fragile glimmer of hope amid the wreckage of our marriage. I knew that forgiveness wouldn't come easily and the road ahead was uncertain. Let's start with the truth, I said, my voice steady. You need to tell me everything, every detail about your relationship with Mark, how it started, how far it went. I want to hear it all. The fear in her eyes was palpable, but she nodded, recognizing the weight of my request. Okay, she said slowly, her voice trembling. I'll tell you everything. And so, under the dim lights of our living room, with the weight of our shattered trust hanging in the air, Lisa began to recount her story. The misguided choices, the moments of vulnerability, and the reasons that led her to betray the love we once shared. With each word she spoke, I felt the layers of our relationship peeling away. This was a reckoning, a moment where the truth would define our future. I would listen, and perhaps, if I was willing, we could begin to rebuild. But for now, I was determined to hold her accountable for her choices and confront the betrayal that had turned my world upside down. As Lisa began to speak, the weight of her confession hung in the air. It all started innocently enough. She began, her voice trembling. I was feeling overwhelmed at work, and I needed someone to talk to. I met Mark at a coffee shop when I was grading papers. He was friendly and he listened. At first, it was just friendly chats about teaching and life. I didn't think anything of it. I listened intently, my heart heavy as she recounted her thoughts and feelings. But then it escalated, she continued, her gaze dropping to the floor. We started messaging more frequently, and I didn't tell you because I was scared. I thought I was just being friendly, but it became something more. I didn't want to lose you, but I also felt like I was losing myself. Did you ever think about how your actions might hurt me? I interjected, my voice firm but steady. I did, she admitted, tears welling in her eyes, but I was in denial. I thought I could compartmentalize it, that it wouldn't affect our relationship. I told myself it was just a harmless connection. Harmless, I echoed, disbelief coloring my tone. You know now that those were lies you told yourself. You weren't being honest with me, and you certainly weren't being honest with yourself. I know, she said, her voice cracking. I see that now. I was wrong. I let my loneliness cloud my judgment and pushed you away when I should have come to you. I thought I needed validation from someone else, but what I really needed was to be honest with you." There was a rawness in her voice that struck deep, and as she continued, I could see the remorse etched on her face. "When I met Mark again at the hotel, I thought it was just for closure, to end things. But I got swept up in the moment and I kissed him. I didn't mean to, it just happened," she confessed, her words tumbling out in a rush. "He kissed you, I said," my voice low, anger flaring within me once more. "What did you expect that would lead to? Did you think it wouldn't matter? I thought I could control it. I thought I could walk away, but I was wrong. It spiraled out of control and I was trapped in my own lies," she said, her voice filled with regret. "I never wanted to hurt you, I swear." The pain was palpable as I absorbed her words. It was a mix of anger and sorrow, but I felt a sense of clarity washing over me. "You need to understand this, Lisa. Trust is a fragile thing. You've shattered it, and it's not something that can be easily repaired." "I know," she said, tears streaming down her cheeks, "and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to earn it back. I'll go to counseling and I'll cut off all contact with Mark. I want us to be whole again." I took a deep breath, weighing her words carefully. "I want to believe you, Lisa. I do, but it will take time. This isn't just about saying the right things, it's about actions. You need to show me you're committed to making this work." "I will," she promised, her voice filled with determination. "I'll prove to you that I'm serious about us. I'll be open and honest. I'll share my feelings, and I won't let anyone come between us again." The fire of uncertainty still burned within me, but as I looked into her eyes, I saw a glimmer of hope. Perhaps this was the beginning of a path toward redemption. "Then we'll take this one step at a time. But you need to understand, if there's any hint of betrayal again, it will be over. I can't endure this kind of pain again." "I understand," she nodded, her expression earnest. "I'll do everything in my power to make it right." As we sat in the living room, the shadows of betrayal began to fade, but the scars would remain. We were both battered from the emotional storm, but beneath the wreckage, there was a flicker of hope. "I'll need to know the truth about everything," I said, my voice steady. "I want to hear about your conversations with him, everything you felt. You need to lay it all bare so I can truly understand what happened. Only then can we begin to move forward." Lisa inhaled deeply, realizing the depth of my request. "Okay," she said softly, "I'll tell you everything." Over the next few hours, Lisa opened the floodgates of her heart, sharing the intimate details of her connection with Mark. Each word felt like a shard of glass, cutting through the remaining layers of our marriage. But with every revelation, I sensed a weight lifting from her shoulders. This honesty, the willingness to confront her demons, was the first step toward healing. As the sun began to set, casting golden rays through our windows, I felt a sense of renewal in the air. Maybe we could rebuild, maybe we could come out stronger on the other side of this. The journey ahead would be anything but easy. There would be hurdles to overcome and trust to rebuild. But for the first time since all of this began, I felt a flicker of optimism. We had taken a crucial step toward reconciliation, and perhaps, just perhaps, we could find our way back to each other. As we sat together, the silence was filled with unspoken promises and newfound hope. Together, we would navigate the rocky road ahead, and though the scars of betrayal would always linger, the bond forged through honesty and commitment could lead us to a brighter future. And as I held her hand, I realized that while the betrayal would never fade completely, the love we had for each other could serve as the foundation for rebuilding what was lost. In that moment, I chose to believe in the possibility of redemption. We would face this together, one step at a time.